Next week, the government is expected to announce new measures to curb the sale of unhealthy foods in England. It's thought there'll be restrictions on advertising and in-store promotions. There's growing evidence people who are overweight or obese are at a significantly greater risk from coronavirus. Our health correspondent Dominic Hughes has been looking at the connection between obesity and the pandemic and what the link says about wider health inequalities across the UK.
Ever since she was a child, Roxana has had a difficult relationship with food.
Every time you sit at a table, you meet your demons. So you meet the addiction every time you have to eat.
After becoming very overweight, she developed type 2 diabetes. She's now trying to eat more healthily and lose weight ahead of further gastric surgery. But those like Roxana with underlying health problems were really vulnerable to COVID-19. So the past few months have been tough.
I had this anxiety of going out, and especially with knowing that I have type 2 diabetes and I'm at a high level of danger. So I tried to avoid as much as I could.
In Roxana's hometown of Sheffield, around 60% of the adult population are overweight or obese. And like Roxana, they were among those at greatest risk of falling seriously ill during the pandemic. The coronavirus has exposed the deep inequalities in our health. What happened here in Sheffield at the height of the coronavirus pandemic reflects what happened in so many towns and cities right across the UK. The more affluent areas escaped pretty much unscathed, but in the poorer parts of Sheffield, they saw some of the highest mortality rates in the entire UK. And that raises some really difficult questions about the state of our public health. And those questions are ones that trouble Greg Fell, the Director of Public Health in Sheffield, who knows he's dealing with a complex, multi-layered picture.
Things that determine health isn't the NHS and the amazing things that the NHS does do. It does do amazing things, but it's the environments in which we live, it's the poverty, it's the poor housing, it's the lack of educational opportunities, it's the job opportunities, so it's economic policy, housing policy, all of those things make a difference to health far more so than the treatment the NHS can provide.
So what has this coronavirus pandemic told us about the underlying state of our health and more broadly our society? Earlier this year, experts warned that life expectancy, particularly among the poor, had stalled. Now the coronavirus has reinforced that connection between poverty and ill health.
Health and health equity, the fair distribution of health, tell us a great deal about how well society is doing. That over the last decade, society had stopped improving and inequalities in society had been increasing. So when the pandemic came, it just exaggerated, let's say, exposed and amplified those inequalities.
Renewing plans to curb junk food advertising, the government is showing signs of stepping up the fight against obesity. But the big challenge for our political leaders is how to apply the deeper lessons of the pandemic, that a real transformation of our nation's health will need fundamental changes in society. Dominic Hughes, BBC News, Sheffield.